Hello. Hello, everyone. Hi, Joanne. How are you?
Hello.
And welcome back to Real Talk.
Welcome back to Real Talk.
Yeah.
Benvenudos.
Bienvenidos.
I'm trying to.
Almost,
Almost.
almost,
Almost.
almost.
Not going to
It
do
was
that.
there. Yeah. Bienvenidos. Yeah. Welcome back
Bienvenidas.
to
Welcome
the
back.
third episode, right? This is our third episode. Yay!
Yes.
And we're gonna talk about something that's been around for a little bit now, just recently, which is
Mm-hmm.
the Netflix series Baby
Yeah.
Reindeer.
I really don't know where it's going to end. I think one of us is going to have to die now.
You say this woman's stalking you?
Yeah, like 6 months maybe.
Why'd it take you so long to report it?
I think she needs help. She comes to my work, my house. She sends me emails like all the time.
Are any threatening towards you?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that's particularly threatening.
There's a reason you're keeping her around, and maybe it's what she gives you.
Got really manly hands, haven't you? Chiseled jawline. Should we run away together? So you're a comedian?
Sort of.
It's not going well.
So is that a question?
Somebody hurt you, didn't they? Who was it?
Martha, can you let go of my hand now, please? Martha, please let go!
You dare!
So, what is this movie about, Joanne? Can you tell us a little bit, just like to get the
Yes.
general
So,
picture?
taken from IMDb,
Mm-hmm.
the story follows a writer and performer Richard Gadd's warped relationship with a female stalker and the impact it has on him as he's ultimately forced to face a deep, dark, buried trauma.
Yeah.
The creator and main
Yes.
actor, is Richard Gadd himself. Was directed by Veronica Tofilska and Josephine Bornbush. Apologies for the butchery.
It's
Um,
okay.
and the cast, I think the main three actors, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's Richard Gadd playing Donnie Dunn, a fictionalized version of himself. Jessica Gunning as Martha Scott, the
The
stalker,
stalker. Yeah.
and Nava Mao as
Yes, have a
Terry.
mouse. Necessary. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have this series, 7 episodes, right? I think it
Yes,
are 7
correct.
episodes.
Very
And
rapid watch, like really easy
yes.
breezy watch, I have to
Yeah.
say. I mean, except for the topic that it's talking about. However,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
pacing as a story is a really fast paced, really great. I love that.
Yeah, me too. I really appreciate that because it's been a while, I think, since the last time that I saw a series, a show that
Mm-hmm.
won't last more than 30 minutes, and I really appreciate that. I think right now
Yeah.
many tend to the longer format, and
Mm-hmm.
usually you have to, I guess, watch like a couple of episodes per day and then continue.
Mm-hmm.
But this I saw in one sitting actually. I don't know. How about
Mm-hmm.
you?
Yeah,
Did you?
it's really easy.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, I also we watched it because it was the weekend and we were looking for something to watch, and I
Yeah.
think we watched it all. It's just that because we started it at night and my husband and I are grandparents, not by age, but just because we sleep really early,
Yeah.
we did not finish it. But
Yeah.
I was kind of glad though because we watched the 3 episodes before and then
Mm,
afterwards, starting from episode 4. I'm kind of glad that we watched it afterwards because, we will talk about it later, but I think episode 4 was very heavy. So I'm glad that
yeah,
we
it
did not
is.
watch it at night.
Yes, you are right,
Hmm.
actually. And I think now we can talk about a little bit about those maybe like issues or
Yeah.
parts that we didn't like, but I think this is a good moment to start with those aspects, right? The ones that we didn't like. So go ahead and let
Yeah.
everyone know, what did you mean by the fourth episode being kind of
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was actually a good segue because the episode 4, that's my only problem with the show
Mhm.
as someone who has history with essay. I did not appreciate the warning, and I know that this is kind of like a common thing whenever there is an episode in a TV show
Yeah.
that is triggering. The trigger warning comes only on that episode. So I don't know if this is some kind of normalcy, but I did not appreciate it because I wish that there is a trigger warning in the beginning of the series instead of just in the beginning of episode 4. Because at that point, for me at least, I feel like I was at a crossroads whether I should continue watching and
Mhm.
possibly get triggered or just abandon the show.
Yeah.
It was kind of, as someone who, I mean, my trauma is not even that deep and
Mhm.
I'm working on it with my
Mhm.
therapist. So considerably low, right, compared to others. And even for me, my body,
Yeah.
like my heart was beating out of my chest. I
Mhm.
felt like I felt triggered physically, at
Mhm.
least, by what I watched in episode 4. And I kind of had to, you know, and obviously because it's not like super terrible, it was fine, but still I would
Yeah.
rather not have to. So also maybe like in a way you can kind of direct the criticism towards, like, did you have to make it super visual? Maybe that can be the criticism instead of the
Mhm.
trigger warning. But I
Yeah.
don't know what is the like whether it's just normal to like include it on the particular episode instead of, like, why not have the trigger warning in the beginning of every episode, kind of.
Yeah.
That's my argument. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I have to agree, because although I haven't really gone through I guess very complex essay experiences in my life, like
Mm-hmm.
um I do think that it was sort of triggering to me as well, uh,
Mm-hmm.
because I was impacted by the graphic that the show
Yeah,
was at
maybe
that
because it
point.
was visual, right? It's like too
Yeah,
graphic, and they didn't have to be maybe that graphic, but maybe that's the point also.
yeah,
So,
I think so too.
I think both ways you can argue. At
Yeah,
that
I
point, it's
think
about like the
maybe
delicate balance between making a
exactly.
point without, it's kind of
Yes.
like it's kind of making me think about like Euphoria, for example, a show that is
Mm,
depicting drug abuse. A lot of people are saying that they are almost glorifying drug abuse, and I
yeah.
understand where they're coming from because I also have joked and said, "Ha, looks pretty cool." Because the way that they shot it is very, ethereal. But
Yeah.
again, it's one of those arguments that like you can understand both points, you can understand both ways. And I mean, as someone who's not creating the show, someone who's enjoying it, you can only criticize or like, you know.
Yeah, I think it wanted to make a point, and I think it did,
Hmm.
but
Yes.
also it was by using all of this more visual or graphic resources, and I think that's what can be the most triggering for some people, especially people
Yeah.
that have had experiences such as this. And
Hmm.
yeah, I would have appreciated to see the disclaimer in the beginning of
Hmm.
every episode, like you said. And
Hmm.
I think also what you said, the question that you just asked about whether it
Hmm.
was necessary to be as graphic as it was.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a good a good question to reflect on. I guess then again, you have all of those like, I guess, directing intentions and the story intentions and so forth. But yeah, I think it could have been less graphic and include more trigger warnings, right?
Yeah,
Um,
because I think if you include the trigger warning in the beginning, you
mhm,
can decide at that point whether or not you want to get into
exactly.
the show. But
Yes.
if you if you give me the warning in the middle of the
You're kind
episode,
of
it's kind
trapped.
of yes, I
Yeah.
think that's what. But again, I don't know if this criticism is valid because that's just how things are. But
Yeah.
just because things are the way that they are doesn't mean that you can change it. I'm pretty sure it is a possibility to do
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, me too. I think for me, besides this, what you mentioned about the trigger warnings and the visual or the graphic aspects of the story, what I didn't like a lot was that although the acting was great and the characters I think were extremely well like built, I didn't like that the relationship between Donnie and Martha, uh, it sort of became a little bit romanticized, in my opinion. I do remember that there were some bits where he was actually feeling sorry every now and then, right? And he
Mhm.
was trying to be, I guess, helpful in some ways. And then you would see how crazy she would react to some of those responses by Donnie. But in the
Mhm.
end, I think um, this relationship that they had and how it was portrayed, although it is very complex and it really depicts two broken characters, I think
Mhm.
Donnie's empathy for Martha became romanticized in a way, like because this is a toxic, unhealthy, very abusive and even
Mhm.
manipulative relationship between these two characters. And although it is all of that, it's sort of it gets you in a way that you end up empathizing for even for Martha,
Mm.
which is,
Right.
so yeah,
Yeah,
to me, it was a little bit maybe on the romanticizing side that I didn't like it a lot. I know it is
I
not like
understand.
black and white, especially with
Yeah.
this type of cases, but I
Yes.
guess I would have wanted to
You don't want the story to make us have a possibility of feeling sorry for her. That's what you mean,
yeah,
right?
in a way, because I guess it takes me back to what you said about Euphoria. I didn't
Yeah.
watch Euphoria, but I remember at the time I was working at a high school and I had many of my students watching that show. And it was, to me, it was not it was kind of like
It's
controversial
for
because
kids.
yeah, I mean they were very young still and they were watching this, but I mean, okay, whatever. Um
Mm.
the and so I thought what you said was actually what was happening with that show. It was sort of like glorifying or maybe romanticizing again the use of drugs
Drug abuse.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and abusive relationships. It sort of reminds
Yes.
me of
Mhm.
this other show, which I think it tried to do that, but it wasn't as graphic, which was Skins. I don't know if you saw that show.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think it had sort of that approach, but less glorifying. And it worked better, maybe to me. I don't really know.
Skins,
Yeah,
right?
Skins. It
I
was a
think it's
British
because
show.
Euphoria is created by Sam Levinson, a guy who I don't know, he likes beautifying these
Mm,
things. Like
mm-hmm.
after The Idol, I feel like we can see that Sam Levinson as a visionary, I don't know, I feel like he's a little bit of a sick dude.
Stop it. Get some help.
He seems to, after The Idol, I feel like I'm comfortable saying that he definitely he rides that wave a little bit too close to the sun in terms of
Mm-hmm.
like glorifying or beautifying
Yes,
these
I like
abusive
that term.
things or
Beautifying.
abusive people,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I think that's what he does. In my opinion, you can talk about difficult topics without having to, like, as you say, romanticizing or beautifying these
Hmm.
things, or to go back to my point, without having to be so graphic with these
Yes,
portrayals. But
exactly.
again, if you are using these things as like a hook, I also can't blame you.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I understand. Yeah.
in a way, we understand. Yes.
Hmm. So I think for me, this was my only downside to this series,
Hmm.
actually. I cannot think about anything else so far.
Yes.
Maybe later on we will discover some other aspects that might have not worked uh, as
Hmm.
well. But I think now it's a good time for us to cover what we liked, right?
Yes.
So let's do that. Let's go with what we like.
Okay, let me start.
Yeah,
I think I just love the show. I think I think Baby Reindeer is a very great show
it
that
is.
can really start an important discussion, especially about stalking and abuse. It's
Yeah,
a really important topic that needs to be talked about, and it's a great starting point. It's a great way for that discussion to be started and to be, I guess, not normalized. It's normalized in the sense that I think, especially for male victims, I think those kind of conversations maybe are a bit lacking. So I
yeah,
think it's a good way to start, this whole discussion.
yeah, yeah, you're right. And I think there was a point in the series, I hope it's not such a big of a spoiler, but when Donnie goes to the police and he's asked why it took him so long
Yes.
to report the incident, and he actually answers that question. I mean, in his mind, right? Not directly to the police officer, but he ends up answering by telling us that I suppose in a way he was repressing so many of those experiences or trauma events in his life. And also he asks later, why was he being asked something like that? Or like he was being questioned about I guess
The details.
the
Like, I
details
think
about the
the police was
incident.
like, was it a guy or a girl?
Exactly. And he said
Yeah.
if you would ask something like that to a woman. And
Yes.
yeah, I think that's also a good point to start a conversation about how we perceive or what we think about um SA, but
Male victims.
especially,
Yeah.
yeah, in male
Yeah.
victims. Yeah, exactly.
This actually reminds me of the story of Terry Crews. I don't know if you know, but he was I
Oh, I
think he
think
was
he
essayed
was,
by someone.
yes, I think he was.
And I remember someone on Twitter like making fun of like, oh my God, you're Terry Crews, you're such a big guy. How can you get essayed? Or something
Oh
like
my
that. Like
God.
some idiot, you know. Like I think that's why like I don't know. I think there are still some idiots out there who are just like, you're a guy.
For
Especially in
sure.
this case, it's like Terry Crews. It's a big guy who works out,
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I feel
yeah,
like
yeah.
some idiot is just like they're too stupid to understand that.
Yeah,
Like anyone, literally anyone can be a victim. Yeah. So
exactly.
I think it's super important to talk about.
Yeah. To me, the story, I like the fact that the story is so much more than what appears to be.
Hmm.
Because it is not only about dealing with a stalker, which you might think by reading the description of the series or even by what you can see up to episode 3. And that's what I liked. I liked the twist. Although then again, I would have appreciated um, a disclaimer being shared beforehand, but still, I do like the twist because it does um, cover more than only stalking. It talks
Hmm.
about trauma and what it does to people's lives and relationships. And
Mhm.
by episode 4, the audience realizes what truly lies underneath, like Donnie's unhealthy behaviors with Martha, and how everything is connected to or goes back to his abuse experiences. And so, yeah, I really like that. I like the twist, and I like the direction that it took. Um, it seems
Mhm.
like it is only about stalking someone else or being uh, the stalker, or well, in this case, being the victim, right, of the stalker. But it is so much more than that, and I like that. I like that it was not only about having a stalker or becoming one, or it was more about trauma and how we deal with that and what it does to ourselves and others.
Yeah. To echo what you just said, actually, the twist, let's say in episode
Yeah.
4, it was actually something that my husband mentioned
Mm-hmm.
because he's saying that because he seemed to recoil under the bridge in episode 3 when it was at night, and then Martha just like went in
Yeah,
and touched
that
his
was
private
disturbing.
parts. That was
Yes.
disturbing. For me, I think that was already a little bit triggering to me. So I
Mm-hmm.
already like shut off my eyes and shut off my brain. And then
Mm-hmm.
afterwards, my husband was like, oh my God, like, because they were also talking about like someone hurting him. It's like a he and
Yeah,
stuff like that. And then he kind of connected and like, I think someone is abusing him. I
yeah,
wonder who it is. And he was already saying that. And so, even with that kind of assumption going in, the warning in episode 4, I feel like, by the way, I don't know why there was no trigger warning in episode 3. I feel like that was quite something already.
yeah. It was a
So,
little.
it's not great.
No.
Um, so yeah, like even with that kind of assumption, it was still quite surprising, and it's crazy. It depicts how, I don't know. And I think for me, it really not only, sorry, not only it triggered me in that sense, it also made me really sad
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
as
it
someone who's like
was very sad.
looking for a job, and like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
are both in this kind of we want to
Build.
be in the field of
Yeah,
I guess screenwriting and stuff like that, and to just imagine how we can be in that situation, I think it's just so close to home. And to kind of segue that to why I love the show so much
mm-hmm.
is because Donnie as a character. And last week we talked about last time we talked about Oppenheimer. For
Yeah,
us, an unrelatable scientist douchebag guy. But I feel like Donnie, even though he is not very great and smart at making decisions,
yeah,
he's really dumb. He makes the wrong decisions all the time.
yeah,
And probably because also he's based on a real person, the character just feels more real. Okay, Oppenheimer is also based on a real person, but it just doesn't feel relatable. Like, I don't
yeah,
know, it's not that, I don't know. Donnie as a character is just amazing, and he's endearing, and I think he's just someone that at the end of the day you would love to root for, and you would like to see him kind of at the end of the tunnel, like he's on the other side and he's triumphant. And I think that's what's
yeah.
so great about the story, like a great main character, which
Yeah.
Oppenheimer again doesn't have, to go
I
back to the discussion from last
exactly.
week.
I think it was the vulnerability of Donnie's, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't
Yes.
think we could find that in Oppenheimer. Then
Yeah.
again, he is brilliant. He was brilliant. I'm sorry. But there was no vulnerability showed us um how it was in Donnie's case. And I think that sort of compensates for his lack of wisdom or his lack of good
Yeah.
decisions, because it is very relatable. We are all, or we try to sometimes be vulnerable, or even when we don't really want to do it, we are vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so I do appreciate that side of him.
I think actually main characters making dumb decisions is something that I always see is a turnoff for people.
Mhm.
But I hope it's not turning people off from this. Because I know a lot
Yeah.
of people kind of get annoyed. Like I would see a movie getting a bad score from audience just because, oh my God, all of the characters are so dumb. They did this. But I don't know. For me, characters making dumb decisions is never a way to turn off something.
Yeah, I have to admit I was a little frustrated with Donnie,
Of course.
actually. I was
But I think it's natural, right? To
yeah,
be
I
dumb.
think I was just wanting so badly for him um to win, to make a good
Hmm.
decision, that I was just like, come on, man, this time. Like, but yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it was okay. Um my last like or good point about this film, oh, I'm sorry, not film, about this series, was how the trauma was presented to us. And I'm just echoing another YouTuber's opinion. Later on in the video's description, I'll make sure to link his video. But he said something very interesting, which was about how the trauma was depicted outwardly and inwardly. So
Hmm.
Donnie and Martha, they're sort of like a coin, like the two faces of a coin, right? And one is Donnie's trauma being something that continuously hurts himself. And there's a point where we know that, because he straightforwardly he says that he tells us, or he sort of like confesses how he loves to hate himself,
Yes.
while on the other hand, Martha is more the other face of this coin, or this situation, how trauma can lead you to uh destructive behaviors towards
Hmm.
other people. I'm
Hmm.
sorry. So I really like that, and I think it is worth mentioning or noticing, because I do think sometimes we tend to believe that trauma can be only a certain way, or it can take some sort of like universal shape or whatever. But it
Yes. Yeah.
actually, it goes so much deeper, and it takes so many forms, and it can be self-destructive and destructive towards other people, and or it can be both, or it's just very complex. And I like that they made an effort to cover this in a more like dimensional way, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you. And to add on to that, also, I
Mm-hmm.
think what's really great, this is also another thing from a psychology podcast on YouTube, which we can link also below.
Mm-hmm.
But this psychologist was talking about how it's also depicting a great cycle of abuse and like how it typically happens, because at the
Right.
end of the series we can see how Donnie was, he forgot his wallet. He's at the end of
Yeah.
his, he was sad, and then it was the kindness of someone that kind of like made him
Mm-hmm.
think how, yeah, just the whole of the cycle of abuse can repeat itself if you're not aware. And to be honest, the entire time I was just like, dude, just go to therapy. That's literally what I
Right.
was screaming. I was screaming, go to therapy. But yeah,
Yeah.
so
That was an amazing scene, the last scene, I think, because it was
yeah,
sort of
it's
like,
really sad.
yeah, it was very depressing, very sad, but it was also sort of
Yeah.
like full circle type of moment, where
Yes.
where everything sort of clicks and it makes
Mm,
sense. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So I guess now is the long-awaited time for us to rate this.
Yeah.
What would you say about this? What do you think, Fabian?
I think this is a great show. I think you have to be thoughtful about whether you're willing to watch it because of the graphic
Yes.
scenes, but nonetheless, I think it is a very good show. It has humor, it has drama, it has great acting. So I would rate it 90% fresh butter popcorn.
I think I would agree and would rate it like a 96%
Yeah,
fresh butter
exactly.
popcorn. I think I would do 96. And
Yeah.
again, I think this show, as great as it is, should come with a really big trigger warning.
Mhm.
I think it's super important. Like it's not I was kind of upset for a bit after episode 4. I'm not gonna lie. It really like I felt like I don't know, maybe it's not a trigger or something, maybe there's another word for it, but I was really upset. I didn't
Mhm.
like it at all. And yeah, so really just take care of yourself first before, even though it's a great show, like it's not worth upsetting yourself,
Yeah.
honestly. I was really annoyed that I'm like, why did we have to watch this? That's literally what I
Yeah.
thought to myself.
I guess as a viewer, you can feel betrayed, right? A little bit because you would expect maybe for the creators to be a bit more like thoughtful about the
Caring.
viewers. Yeah, caring
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
about the audience
yeah.
and maybe, prepare them for what is about to happen. But yeah.
I think that's why I was really upset. But I think for some people, different things like trigger them, etc.
Yeah.
I think it depends also whether or not you're a visual person,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah,
So proceed with caution. That's what I would say about this.
exactly. Yeah.
But if you
So
like it,
yeah, if you like it, go ahead and watch it because it is truly a good show, I think. Maybe one of the, I would
one of the
even
better
go so
things.
far. Yeah, it's one of the
Yeah,
better things that I have watched so far this year.
on
So
Netflix.
yeah, on Netflix, exactly. That was
Yeah.
surprising too. But yeah,
Yes.
glad
Please,
to see.
Netflix, more of these things. Like
Yeah,
you don't have to hire, like you don't have to spend millions of dollars to like hire, I don't
no.
know, like Dwayne Johnson, like put some
Yeah,
of the biggest names. Like you don't have to hire them. Just hire good, like it all starts with good writing, right? Because
yeah,
even bad actors can't save a bad script. So I feel like
exactly.
just hire a good writer, Netflix. Like don't stop making like stop spending so much money and then making the Netflix subscription so expensive because you can't afford these movies.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Please, some
another.
quality.
Yes, quality over quantity. Netflix. I
Yeah,
understand it's not like in their model, but that's
yeah,
Netflix. Stop.
yeah. But hey, this is worth watching, and I hope that after listen to us, maybe you are even more interested uh, on this
Mhm.
show. And again, we are happy that you are listening to our podcast. Yeah, and we
Yeah,
hope
we hope
to.
to see you again the next time we
Mhm.
upload.
Yeah,
Feel free to, if you like it. If you don't
yeah,
like it, don't.
please.
And share with other people and give us your engagement so that the
Yeah,
algorithm likes us.
exactly.
Feed it some
And
love.
yeah, please. And also if you think about comment something, do it respectfully. We don't really want to argue with anyone. We just want to share our opinions and listen to others. So if you have something nice to say or even like criticism, as long as it's respectfully presented, then we are more than glad to answer you.
But that's from us. That's all.
Yeah, that's
Stay
all.
fresh.
Like the butter.
And see you later. Bye.
Bye.